Hi
Ready?
everyone, welcome to Babies with Knives channel. Tonight we are going to be playing Hero System 6th Edition, aka Champion 6th Edition. We are going to be playing a campaign called Chaotic Origins. I'm your host, Alice Peng, aka Lala Twiddle on the boards. With me is my co-host, Brandon Powers. Please say hi.
Howdy, howdy.
He is also our GM for the evening. And playing along with me will be Aldo Regalado
Hello.
and Timothy Lemaster.
Hey there.
So, let's get started.
We're going to start, and since we don't have an awesome high budget Marvel Comics, intro, where, you hear some sort of action going on and then you see all the comic panels flashing by. Instead, we're, up on the screen, the babies with knives. And so you see this group of babies, and they're, in diapers crawling around, and, some are playing with stuff, rattles, beating on things and all. And there's just in a pile of really cartoon babies. And then there's this pile, then you pan, and there's this pile of big pretend, cartoon knives. And there's two different piles, and then you start to see the babies playing around with the knives, juggling at them, and then it says "babies with knives." Just what popped into my head. Our screen starts black, and beginning you hear voices at first indistinct, and as they come into the foreground, the blackness lifts up, and you start panning around through the New York skyline, getting to see that, and the voices are actually different, overlaid like news reports, little snippets of things. And so here's our montage of different news reporters that have been on the news in recent days. And so sewer workers today have reported that there was an actual alligator seen in the sewers. Investigators were brought in later on. They do believe that instead it was a leaking pipe that caused them to hallucinate, and then that one starts to fade out where another one comes up. At the local power plant caused an overload, though we are assured that there has been no leakage, and that everything will remain safe. That one begins to fade out. Unknown outbreak in the garment district of New York. We have reports that 36 workers in one factory have been quarantined with an unknown disease. We'll be bringing you more on this breaking story. It fades out. In Chinatown, during the festive dragon dance, there are reports that the dragon actually caught fire, and then
Lion
they
dance.
lion dance.
Those are lion dances.
I've heard it both ways, so you're the smarter person on this. I wanted it to be a dragon because I was having a cat. And then you cut to the voice of somebody that they interviewed, and it's like, lion, go without dances, catch fire, keep going. And that one begins to fade out. Wolves have been heard howling just outside of the downtown Manhattan. Local animal control assures us that no creatures like that are in the local area, but instead this is a group of dogs that are communicating with them. That one fades out, and in the Bronx, there have been reports of a mysterious mole man seen coming in and out of the sewers. And then that one fades out, and we're, at this point, a full view of New York. The sun's going down and such, and you hear sharks seen in the Hudson. And then you start to hear sirens and such. And now we actually cut to a news report that takes over from the skyline scene, and this is the current day, and this is what all of you are getting, are becoming aware of in some way or other. And since this is, none of our characters know each other or anything, while I do love to get the focus on people's lives and such, we're going to be jumping more to the superheroic action rather than the secret identities as our start. And so this is the breaking news. breaking news at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. There is a hostage situation that has begun evolving. We are getting reports now as authorities are becoming alerted to it. During Victoria Patrice's annual fundraiser that the luminaries of New York City all attend, including the mayor, a group of armed assailants have seemed to storm the building and taken everyone hostage. Well, we're going to cut to Kate Cottrell for more information on scene, and there you cut to the night of New York City, and there's a bunch of police cars around. It looks like there's reasonable weather out as the sun is just finishing going down, since it's Alice is still in school, but prom is a concern. We're coming up towards summertime, and you have one of the officers that's in charge of the situation, the public official representative, currently speaking with camera, and he's they ask him, what are we doing at this point, and he's like, well, we've set up a cordoned off area, and we're attempting to speak with the individuals who have stormed the building. At this point, we have unknown number of individuals, but we're trying to open up lines of communication. And then he, turns away, and you hear all the other reporters, including the one that he was actually answering a question of, and they're calling out his name and such. But then they cut back to the studio, and that's where we jump over to you guys.
My father's restaurant happens to be catering as one of the meals for the evening, because some of those places they do 2 or 3 caterers for a big event like that, and my father's restaurant does happen to be pretty specialized.
Why don't we hear a little bit about your father's restaurant?
Sure. My father's restaurant is a New Orleans style restaurant featuring New Orleans comfort food, and he moved out here from New Orleans about 20 years ago. So it is, it is a type of food that at that point would probably be of interest, since it's considered ethnic food by a lot of people for some reason.
And there's our beautiful view of the walk up to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I guess, by the way.
Sure.
I grabbed that's during the daylight. But yeah, a big stairway that is approaching the building and such.
Okay. Then I heard about it on the news.
Yes. As I said, you guys all heard this report.
Sure.
So.
At that point, while I'm doing homework, all of a sudden in my mind, I hear, it is not their time. And I feel a crawling up my back, over my head, and suddenly my pencil disappears from my hand, and I am dressed in a blue dress. At that point, I stand up, and given the distance of the place, I will open up a portal, a gate. I close my eyes, I focus my hand out, and a black scarab materializes and starts to grow in front of me vertically. And once it's about the size of a doorway, it spreads its wings, and where his back should be is an open hole.
So on our comic panel, you see this, you see it grow, and you see the wings open, and then you see, no longer, and I don't remember any of your guys' normal names. Well, I guess I remember Jim and Resnick. Yours is complicated, but no longer do we
Kayla.
see mild-mannered student Kayla, but instead the scarab as she begins to step through this portal.
And then the wings close behind me.
And then that's just, her room with, NSYNC posters and Hanson posters. That's what the kids are listening to these days.
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I'm not young enough to know what exactly I should have on my walls, to be very honest.
True North. True
No,
North. You
no,
guys
not
never
True
go
North.
wrong with True North.
Most kids, most teenagers actually listen to stuff we listen. A lot of them don't like the popular music.
I can understand on that.
I
All
can.
right, let's go ahead and we're gonna cut out on the Scarab's brief little intro into her journey towards action, and we can jump to Aldo. I'm gonna grab something real quick,
Yeah.
but I can hear you.
Okay. So Kyle Resnick is in his apartment. He's actually temporarily suspended from his FBI job for having disobeyed orders and pursued the case that gave him his powers. So he's had some time to think, and he's sitting in his apartment with the lights out, probably a drink, next to him on his armchair. And in the coffee table, there are pulp magazines, like vintage from the 1940s pulp magazines that are kind of like fanned out on the coffee table. There's a box next to him where it's obvious that they came from. And he's holding in his hands Avenger #9, Tuned for Murder, which he seemed to be looking at as he had the television on. He when the report came on, he looked up from the pulp magazine that he was holding, and he gently put it down as he was kind of like listening to the news. And when the report is over, he looks down at the pulp magazines. He looks back up at the TV set. He says, "Well, Dad, this is the day that I try to make it come off the pages. I don't know about this. We'll see how it goes." And with that, there's a bright flash of light that emanates from him, and he becomes the ghost light. And with that, he becomes intangible, and he floats straight up through the roof of his apartment. I guess he lives on the top floor, and he can see the sky. He can see the New York City, surrounding him essentially, right? And then he'll fly towards the Met in that form.
Yeah, okay. I'll say that she's been working in New York, and they've been living on like this really crappy apartment. And he saw it on the cheap TV she got. So I didn't buy Poor Destitute with him. I didn't think of it, but he heard about it and decided to do something about it. So he's been basically probably we're doing comic book New York. He probably traveled through the sewers, and then got to the building from there, and basically had the patented Ben Grimm trench coat and hat, and climbed up the side of the building. And it's basically, maybe he'll get lucky and like something from the he has the night vision, so at nighttime is not a problem for him. So you can just climb up and see, look in a window.
Well, so where we're gonna start you is that you're like you said you see it at the crappy rundown apartment, and you're like, oh, I've got to get there. There's people that are in need of help, and you throw on your big trench coat, your hat, patented like you say Ben Grimm style, because anybody, no matter how monstrous they are, if they throw on a trench coat and a hat in the Marvel universe, they can go anywhere basically.
It's the glasses of the Marvel universe.
Oh yes, and sunglasses. Those are good
Comic
too.
book superheroes. You can put on a domino mask and nobody can.
Hey, we can actually prove that it works in real life too. That's for another day. We'll tell you about it sometime.
Okay.
And you probably for you, I don't know if you're just jumping down from out the window and or climbing down the fire escape, or you use the interior, but you go and you get down to your sewer access, like you're saying, and start running through the sewers, which apparently you have learned your way around New York a little bit with the sewers, and you emerge near the Met. the three of you, and I know different ones of you, Alice travels very fast at a long distance, but her accuracy on where she exactly ends up is not precise. Aldo has a decent flight, but it's not an exceptional. And Diamond Jim has got a good leaping and I think a decent running. I don't remember exactly, but none of you are super fast except Alice. But like I say, she's inaccurate. But you all are going to be arriving. At the scene here, and you've got a police area that is cordoned off of the building. And like I've said, and I apologize to anybody who's familiar with New York, I am not familiar with New York. I've read some travel guides and such before I ran a different game, and so I might have things wrong. But they basically have a full block area cordoned off around the Met. That there are officers from many different agencies that have responded to help keep the cordon because it is a large area. And like they said, these are the luminaries of New York City, including the mayor, that are attending Victoria Patrice's gala fundraiser that she runs every year, and it's a different cause each year that she uses. As you come on the scene, all of you see the stairway that I showed a picture of you of the entry to the Met briefly. It has some like scorch marks on it that when you saw the picture of them interviewing the captain or whoever it was, the media contact, those were not in the picture at that point. There's some damaged police cars. You see a large group of media who have been corralled into one area, and they are reporting and trying to get anything that they can. There's some officers that are paying attention to them. There's a large group of young and older people who are watching this scene unfold. Some of them are seem very very caught up in what's going on with it, and yeah, and so you guys are all arriving outside of that cordoned area as you are looking on, and that is where I want you guys to pick up with whatever actions that you intend to be using from that moment.
You mentioned that some of the cop cars are damaged. In what way do they appear to be damaged? I am walking there purposefully, and I will not let the cordon stop me.
Okay. Well, like I say, there's a lot of people around, just to make certain that's clear. And so, as you are walking up, you have all sorts of people, standing in your way that are gathered around, trying to, get the up to the moment. For some reason, whenever there's danger, people love to stand there and gawk. There are bombs going off. Let me come closer to find out more. And so what are you doing to get through those, Scarab? Do you mind if I call you the Scarab? Can I drop the V?
Go ahead. Just call me Scarab, that's fine. I mutter under my breath as I grab my staff as I see a crowd in front of me. And I tap the staff into the floor ahead of me. El Raya, El Raya. And I chant that several times. Wind picks up around me, sand engulfs me, floor gives out under me as I enter a sinkhole, and I appear in front of one of the cop cars, rising up from the ground, sand forming back to asphalt as sand continues to engulf around me before dispersing.
So instead of going through, you have found a way around this.
Yes.
This gaggle of onlookers. The others of you, the other two of you, by the way, are Aldo probably flying above the city, Maybe you don't notice, her as she starts this, but you do all of a sudden see this kind of, miasma of sand open up just on the other side of the cordon near one of the damaged police cars. And this woman kind of rise up in that form fitting, parts of it being diaphanous, old kind of, is it like a not toga? What was the word that you used for it, Al?
It's an Egyptian but form-fitting dress, so it kind of looks almost like someone's cosplaying, but really fancy and really nicely done. Actually, if anybody here has any knowledge of history, it would look like a slightly modernized version of a priest dress from the Egyptian times of how it would be represented. But it has a modern take to it to kind of blend in with the modern world.
All right. Well,
my staff, by the way, has a golden scarab encrusted with rubies and emeralds on top.
All right. If he sees that as he's flying in, her rise up like that out of the sand, that's going to take him aback, right? That's the type of thing that
I was actually thinking exactly that. That with your waking up to wonder, all of a sudden, on your first real foray into something, you're all of a sudden confronted by something that you cannot explain. Similar to when you were lost in what is the
Bridgewater swamp, or the Bridgewater Triangle.
The Bridgewater Triangle. I was going to say the Bermuda Triangle of Massachusetts, and I knew you'd figure that
out. So when he sees her, he was coming in with a mentality of, all right, let me spot all of the snipers that they probably have set up. Let me get a sense of the layout so I can avoid, being seen and sneak in there. And then he sees that. And it's almost like he stops with almost like he hits a brick wall, an invisible brick wall. And he kind of looks up straight. And if you could see beyond his mask, right, he'd be like smiling, but also this look of what the hell, And he slowly just descends to a rooftop that he happened to be flying over. And lean his hand up against whatever smokestack or whatever, like chimneys there or whatever. And just for a moment, just basically take in the scene. And for now, he's actually going to see what happens, basically watch that interaction to get a sense of what's happening. Right. But in the moment, he's lost his kind of tactical mind for the, So maybe they'll see him, maybe people will see him, maybe they won't. But right now he's all focused on her, and he's kind of lost his sense of everything else that he was thinking of right now.
Diamond Jim, what we're gonna say is you climbed out of your sewer. Whether you I don't know if you're choosing to keep your trench coat and hat there and come out as Diamond Jim or not. But you see this woman stepping forward, tapping her staff, El Rhea, and I don't know all the words that you said.
It's just two words repeated in Egyptian. It's wind, 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 and basically I'm calling the wind to my aid as I change environment.
And but all of a sudden you see her as she's moving forward. And by the way, Alice, do you have the Egyptian eyeliner
actually,
that
yes,
would protect you from?
I do have on my left eye. Yeah, I decided left eye. I have the Eye of Ra drawn around my eyeliner, as would be expected.
And what color is that in? Is that the dark charcoal to protect you from?
You cut out, by the way, Brandon. My eyeshadow is in gold. And yeah, I was debating for a while between black and gold on the eye. In the end, the eye is going to be charcoal.
Gotcha. But yeah, you see her, and then all of a sudden, this kind of as she's walking forward, suddenly the ground changes from asphalt into this, kind of churning sand that she just sinks down in. And Nobody else is really taking note of her immediately. They're kind of turning around to look, and so miss most of what you're seeing. But then suddenly you can tell the crowd up at the front seems to react to something, and you get just a glimpse of that same woman in her form fitting priestess garb from an age long gone, rising up out of the ground. And what's your plan at that moment, Jim, or what's your action? We're not in initiatives, but I'm trying to jump between you guys as the scene unfolds.
Well, let me see. I thought I was the only weird thing here.
Quick note for people. As for the way that, the general build of my character, like I said, I'm half black, half Brazilian, so I'm using Jessica White for the facial features and the general skin tone and such like that. That model, she worked pretty well for what I had in mind.
Cool.
Well, before my character became Diamond Jim, he looked like Trip from Star Trek Enterprise. Well, I'm just going to walk up. Well, they seem to be kind of, how are they reacting?
We're just about to get to their reaction. The crowd has a lower dexterity. It has a dex of 1 as a crowd entity. The police officers have a dex of 2 in this scene. So you guys all get what your general thought is. Although Ghostlight is kind of like the way that he described that. I just got this. An X-Men panel of like a Nightcrawler going, "Mein Gott," as he's just blown away by something that's
exactly.
Well, then I just walk up to the, you know what? I go ahead and make my entrance. I mean, it's like ain't gonna be no stealth now anyhow. So got 20 meters leaping, so I do a leap up there, and I just throw the cat as I leap, and I throw the hat and coke off, and just kind of land right in front of her.
All right, so this works so awesomely well just on the image that I've got as Diamond Jim. He's crawling in one panel. He's crawling out of the sewer. He sees this going on, and the little thought bubble. Whatever happened to thought bubbles? I miss them so much in comics.
Me too.
And he's like, I thought I was the only weird thing around here. And then all of a sudden he's leaping into action. He jumps, and as he's jumping, he's throwing off his jacket, his large trench coat and such. And there's Ghostlight crouched behind something, just kind of blown away. And all of a sudden this trench coat lands on Ghostlight. You come up out of the sand. Ghostlight is crouched, just kind of in awe of what's going on. Diamond Jim decides, this is the way that other people are doing it. I'm going to follow
in for a penny.
In for a penny, in for a pound of quartz. Takes a run and then a jumps over the crowd. The officers suddenly, react to you that are in the middle of their area, since you're saying the car would be in front of you, Alice. You suddenly have a bunch of officers, and they're not crouched behind vehicles right now. There's not they think they've got some moments that are safe. We'll put into quotes, but they are being, by all means, their attention is towards the Met. And you appear, and then suddenly you hear the loud thump, and the asphalt cracks a little bit as Jim lands in just a little bit past you. Presented with this man made out of diamonds in a muscle shirt and jeans, I believe is what he was wearing in the picture I saw. The officers, immediately, start to grab guns and turn on you and begin to, make demands. Get back, and they're not really certain what's going on.
My hands up.
Rise up out of the sand. The crowd, all of a sudden is, the two of you are just the center of everybody with these cell phones aimed at you. Yes, this paper is a cell phone in this example, and that they were filming stuff before, but you are getting that from the media. You see the cameras immediately are trained onto the two of you, and just a flow of questions and gasps of awe as the two of you arrive here, erupt. Flow of questions and gasps of awe as the two of you arrive here erupt.
When Diamond Jim appears and, kind of like makes that that loud sound, right? He cracking the asphalt and stuff. Hold on. I gave myself an ego roll to basically like snap back to himself. And he's like, basically he's thinking, this is really cool, but if we're not careful, this can go really bad in there, right? With a hostage situation. So he's basically getting up. I want Alice to do what she was going to do first, but he's basically getting ready to glide down there and intervene if it looks like they're going to, cause too much of a ruckus and disrupt what's going on too much.
So up until this point, you guys have heard that the voice has had a very proper speech to it and the way that I was incanting. And suddenly, at this point, I raised both my hands up. The Scarab Queen sent me to help you.
All right. Howdy.
I'm talking to the officers. I give you a nod, but my hands are up.
Aldo, are you going to be doing anything? The diamond, individual just seems to kind of give a nod and maybe a tip of his non-existent hat. And the woman is, got her hands up. Her staff is just leaning against the crook of her arm, basically the crook of the shoulder, rather than being in any sort of offensive. And they both, at this point, seem like they are, accepting some of the authority of the officer.
So he stood up ready to kind of jump into the situation, but since they are in that mode, he's going to hold his action.
The officers, ma'am, you have to step back, and they have, firearms drawn. They're backing up. They are not specifically aiming at you, but they are in a position where they can quickly, get those guns up onto you. You will have to step back into where everyone else is. There are many people here that have, people they're concerned about inside. And some of them are calling out similar to Jim. Whatever you are, you've got to move back.
Move back to what?
I'm a New Yorker, just like the rest of you. I'm just here to help. Trust me when I say I've got a lot more ability to do so than your little guns can. I have an army at my back. And you let me help, and we can get everyone out of here safe and sound, home to bed.
And Jim, as you're asking, back to what they're like, back with the rest of the crowd, and there, you see that, group, the crowd, the people around you, and such that they're now, almost surging against the barricade. They're not trying to get over them yet, but they're definitely like leaning, and there's a press of everybody trying to get you on their cell phone cameras. And the media are taking pictures and such. The flash bulbs are going off on the two of you right there.
Who's in charge?
All right,
here?
so
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I'm going to calmly walk up to the guy giving me the orders. Without pure threatening him, just calmly, slowly walk over to him. Said, I don't want to cause no trouble. I'm pretty certain you're not going to be able to do much to hurt me. Now, I understand you have a situation here. I just want to help. I think the lady over here wants to help too. You can either get in our way, stand in our way, or get out of our way. But we're going in one way or another. Now,
okay.
Let's try to avoid an incident and try to do the right thing.
As he's talking, thought bubble goes off in my head. The proper voice saying, "What are you waiting for? Just go in and save them. It is not their time."
The two of you, well, you don't know each other. You're both working towards the same end. Either one of you can choose to be the primary, and then the other person can roll to assist them on it with their persuasion, because you're both driving towards that. And you two talk amongst yourselves while you decide that.
Which one do you want to be, primary or secondary?
I'll do secondary. You do primary.
Okay, I'm primary. Do you want to roll your assist roll? Then I'll find out from Brandon whether he's letting me keep my current roll or if I have to roll again.
So I roll an 8. I roll the persuasion?
Yeah, persuasion for an 8 or less.
Unless you have anything that you're thinking is going to be a little more applicable, but
I got 8.
persuasion.
Okay, Brandon, will you allow me to keep my previous roll?
I will, but
Thank
next
you.
time I definitely
I'll wait
say
next
that
time.
you know.
So,
All right. The one of the officers is looks at the two of you, and he goes, and this is not the one that was initially the lead of the giving orders, and he says to you, look, if you want to help, maybe we can use some, but you gotta take a moment. Don't just start jumping up on us like this. Why don't we talk for a minute? All of you go ahead and give me a perception check, because the Aldo has kind of been in a position where he gets to see things, and the other two of you are, have moved from the distance that you started.
Am I rolling as well, or is it just them?
Yeah.
success by 1.
Okay. I rolled a 10.
I rolled
You're
a 14. My
by
success
2?
is 15, so I succeeded by 1.
You're wicked smart.
No, didn't make it. Oh, no,
Wicked.
didn't make it. Rolled a 12.
Diamond Jim, as you're near this one of these police cars that you guys all saw that were beat up before you jumped to the scene, this thing looks like it has taken massive damage. That's your takeaway. Basically, you didn't make a good perception check, but this is not bullets, maybe grenade or something, some other type of ordnance that is going to cause a lot of damage. And you do see those scorch marks on the stairs, where something beat the crud out of the stone there. It's not just on the surface that it's blackened. Something ripped that up. Go ahead.
So when I was in the military, did I see action?
Yeah, I'd say so. Unless that was
I'd probably be able to tell if it was like a bullets other than something else, because I would have seen something like that.
Yeah, and like I say, it's definitely more damage than bullets, though you are seeing bullet holes. But you're not exactly certain what happened to it. Maybe you're a little more focused on the people. It's kind of one of your first times, being out in the spotlight, so to say, since you transformed, and so your concentration's elsewhere. To Aldo and to Ghostlight and to the Scarab. The two of you, as you're looking around, and although I could work on range penalties, but I'm not worrying about that. You've had plenty of time, and you're not so much involved. But the vehicle and the stairs, they seem like they were damaged by something that is pretty significant. Neither one of you think that you're probably dealing with traditional, weaponry. Alice, I would think that where you're getting this is more from, that other voice or something that you don't quite understand. You see then this image of of a individual that you've gotten a little bit of in the past, that they seem to be some sort of sorcerer type character in the images that you see, and very, let's go stereotypical, Egyptian sorcerer with the bounded beard and such like that. That might be more Babylonian than Egyptian. I'm not certain.
Yeah, more Babylonian, based on what I was looking at.
And all these slaves, and they're constructing something and all, and you get this flash of images, and this arcane platform is made. It's not a pyramid, but it is a major construction, and you at times you see the camps, and they're all flashing by very quickly. The camps where the workers would live, and then suddenly, the construction is complete, and instead of the life in the camps, you just see this death of it, and then you flash back to that individual, and they have this kind of black energy on their hands that's just kind of flickering between them and such, and with Kirby dots around the edges.
Gerby crackle.
And to Aldo, you look at this, and with counterterrorism experience, you have lots of experience dealing with all sorts of different munitions and such, and looking at the blast patterns and such, you're not thinking that this is probably with primarily, at least, with weapons that you're familiar with.
Two questions. One, I know that it's not matching up with any kind of ordnance that I'm familiar with. Would it in any way remind me of the kind of devastation that I saw in the facility when he was fighting with the other entity in that encounter?
Yeah, it does look like maybe energy like that, maybe slightly different, but something that is by all means pretty outside of standard weaponry. Go ahead and give me a roll, because I know you at least have skills.
Okay, just a blind roll here.
Yeah, blind roll, and I'm gonna try and find your character sheet.
I rolled a 9.
You emailed it to me. A 9. Well, I know you at least have something. So we're going to say this is interrogation, or possibly something a little less dark. And that will be identified when I look at your character sheet. But as you're looking, and I actually think we were talking during our quick break that you're going to be flying over, and you're looking at this. Some of this looks like electrical burns on it. Now, by all means, there is some stuff that would not just be electrical burns on what has ripped up some of the stone steps up to the Metropolitan Museum and such, but you are seeing some activity like that, which is different than what you dealt with in the Bridgewater Triangle. And
Okay.
with that answer, I believe that Ghostlight was taking an action while Diamond Jim and the Scarab were trying to negotiate with the police officer.
Yeah, so if I remember, the last interaction that we got from the police officer was that he said something to the effect of, yeah, maybe you can help us, but you shouldn't be rushing in. Maybe take a second. And with that, Ghostlight is going to turn intangible and glide down to them, and he's basically going to say, I think you both make a good point, and kind of land in their midst.
A further round of gasps and such, and all, and more flash bulbs are going off from the media and such, as another individual is saying this, and you can even hear one person who's like updating their news network in the background, and they are this is Kate Carell, and you are seeing it here first. Is that we do have real live superheroes here in New York City. No longer myths, rumors hidden to the background. They are right here in front of the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, preparing to deal with this hostage situation. And one of the other officers, an Asian officer, look kind of like gives a sidelong glance, hearing the same stuff that you guys are hearing, and goes, "Yeah, maybe we could get out of this."
His thought bubble, by the way, is superheroes, exclamation mark. And he's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe this is happening, but he's trying to keep his composure on the outside, right?
Your face mask does help with that.
It does. It's very handy. It's like, he turns to Diamond Jim and to Scarab. And he says, the point you make about us needing to be in there is absolutely well taken. We specifically need to be there. There are others like us in there, I suspect. But, officer, your point that we have to be cautious here is very well taken. I'm Ghostlight. Maybe I can offer some stealthy options here, some covert options here. But we should talk about this.
I am
What do you say?
And you are
well
correct.
Met,
inside is a force that is old. It is dark. It may be recent here, but its origins are far older than your history remembers.
How do you know this?
I come from a time where forces like this were something we dealt with and lived through. This young one here, and points at the body, has been gracious enough to host my presence when time is necessary.
Is that how it works? And then he's hosting somebody too, right? So
I know. I thought that was super interesting.
And her voice changes again back to the New Yorker. So how can we get inside? If we're going to be stealthy, I don't think I'm going to be so great at the stealthy. I have an army at my back, but that army's going to make noise, and I can get us in there in the blink of an eye, but I'll need to know where to take us.
Well, I might be able to help there. He looks over at Diamond Jim, too, who's been quiet, but he doesn't say anything specifically to him. He just kind of looks at him. He's like, I might be able to help there. If you will give me a moment, I might be able to scout inside the building and give us a sense of the layout.
That sounds like a good plan.
All right, officers.
By the way, lady. Scarab?
Yes.
Nice dress.
Thanks. You'll have to thank the Queen for that. This isn't my choice. I hope I find my pencil. Sorry. I hope I find my pencil. Mr. And I point at Ghostlight. Ghostlight, you said was your name?
Yeah, Ghostlight. That's right.
Could I send some hitchhikers to follow you, go in with you? If they're riding on you, they won't make any noise.
I'm not going in directly.
Oh, okay.
He's going to motion his hands and basically I forgot, there's that light that's kind of playing on his body, on his midnight blue bodysuit, and that light's going to kind of like focus from his hands and come out as an orb. And then he's going to push the orb forward, and it's going to go towards the Metropolitan Museum. He's going to motion his hands and basically I forgot, there's that light that's kind of playing on his body, on his midnight blue bodysuit. And that light's going to kind of like focus from his hands and come out as an orb. And then he's going to push the orb forward, and it's going to go towards the Metropolitan Museum, riding fast and as fast as it can, and kind of low, and kind of like trying to stay with cars and basically trying to be stealthy. Stealthy as a tight orb of light can be. I'm gonna basically try to send my orb in to do clairsentience to get a sense of the layout and whatnot, if that's possible, Brandon.
Gotcha. Well, you guys, I'm going to say between when Ghostlight first dropped in and made the negotiation, and somewhere in that scene, basically, when we started talking about it, you guys did get retired into, pardon me, into a police van. The tactical van and such, so to get out of the direct light of people and such.
I'm gonna go ahead and move the cars in a more defensive position, just in case.
So since we're inside a van, when we were talking, when you asked me about my my army, you see basically I gestured to the floor, and crawling out of the floor panel, the metal floor panel, suddenly you see surfacing scarabs, black scarabs in masses, and they just start piling up, and then I send them away, and they just dissolve back into to dust. Back into
The officers in the van suddenly start to freak out as coming out of the wherever the cabling goes and such like that. There are these bugs that are crawling out of a USB port is one suddenly, and the guys at the van just start losing it at that, and they quickly go away, and you have officers that are literally lifting their laptops up and trying to figure out what the heck just happened and such. Some of them are have jumped up onto their chairs. These people might go in and fight criminals, but all of a sudden bugs coming out of nowhere. The officers are some of them are really freaked out. Other ones of them are just kind of looking out of the corner of their eyes to try and figure out if anything's going on, but they're trying to keep their cool.
Back in my New Yorker accent. Sorry about that. She kind of gets a little.
Oh, she's on our side. I'm okay with it.
The officers that you guys are dealing with right now that are talking to you in that like a SWAT type van is the Asian officer that you had has the last name of Shi. SHIH on his, and there's another one whose last name is Shay, so it's officers Shi and Shay. Maybe I didn't think that through. I didn't listen to them next to each other.
I think it's perfect.
All right, and then Shi's ride along is a younger officer, Octavia Moretti. So a female officer, but it's just Officer Moretti on the thing. And the three of them are talking with you guys. Shay is going to go ahead and start giving you guys a little bit of information on what all has gone on. We received reports from nearby witnesses, as well as received a 911 distress call from inside the museum about 8:45. There was a group of individuals. That's good, Alice. A group of individuals that rushed the museum and quickly closed off entrances. We have an estimate of anywhere between 50 to 100 hostages that were attendees of the event. That is in addition to the service staff, which is estimated at another 50 or so individuals that are in there. So we're looking at a situation where we have anywhere between 100 and 150, possibly more individuals that are either hiding or under the control of these. We've been able to identify the people as we've been able to identify the people that are involved in this as some members of the Bradley Falls Militia. It's a local homegrown militia group that went off on their own in the 70s. While I can't say that they get along with everybody or don't cause problems, normally they keep to themselves and stay on their compound. But I'm not certain what specifically has gotten them to be here today. And at this point, Moretti goes, well, sir, I think that it's got something to do with, and she looks at the three of you and makes a gesture. What they were saying is that they didn't like to see the way that things were going, where then she's flipping through pages, and she brings out a page and is like, when they made demands, they refused to accept a world where abnormals were once again rising to power. They saw the way that that things were developing, and have decided to take matters into their own hands. It's one of the reasons that they targeted this event, I think, is that there's powerful people here that they think can make a change in the city.
Anyone wounded inside?
She speaks up. We haven't received any reports on that yet. We've been trying to make some sort of offers to them. We do have a line into the museum, but they have not been using it. Instead, they have come out onto the steps when they want to talk to us more than using anything like that. Shade, go ahead.
I gesture out to the car that I teleported in front of initially. What made that happen? What did they carry?
Shay speaks up again, and he's like, one of them, a woman, she had a strange rifle. It's nothing munitions based that I'm familiar with. It fired some sort of energy beam and took a rip into the car. And some of the scorch marks, there was somebody who threw, and he looks around and he grabs this glass beaker type thing, and it's capped up, and there are these little, and they look almost like little bug type things, but fairly small type things that have these like leg-like pincer type things, and you can tell that they're mechanical, electrical, not a living thing, and they seem inert in there. They're not moving at all. But one of them threw these out, and they caused electricity to spark between them.
Can I see that?
And he seems kind of uncertain at this point. Go ahead and make some sort of roll to convince him to let you interact with that. Basically, they're willing to share evidence, but share some information, since they're kind of in a pickle here.
By the way, does Bradley Falls militia mean anything to him?
I rolled 14, so probably not.
Bradley Falls militia. While we were doing our quick little intermission break, I did have Aldo make a roll on this, because I was going to type up some information for him if he made it. He did not make it. Okay. However, you have heard of this group, but they mean very little to you.
Okay.
That it's not where you've paid attention.
I haven't worked that case.
So the Shay continues. The energy that came off of her rifle, they were mainly making a display for us, telling us to stay back, or people were going to get it. But they purposefully fired at the cars. There were some that had handguns that also shot, but they didn't really make any specific demands other than to leave them be, and their brief statement of manifesto about the way that the world would have been or should be.
Now,
Go, Jim.
Jim, question: is energy weapons common, or is that something?
No, not common at all. Energy weapons are not something, there are probably military prototypes and such that maybe you saw, but they don't really work well enough to see field
Okay.
use.
I actually realized something. If you guys are really paying attention to Scarab, when her voice changes, often her eyes will flicker different colors. So when that proper voice comes out, you guys see basically her eyes go onyx, just a flicker of a moment before it goes blue again. Um, this is, I am told, a place where you combine your historical valuables, a place of art and history, artifacts, correct. That is what
We
the little one
call them
explains.
museums.
Yes, museums. This is what the little one explains. What is inside this museum? There are many items that this group may be in seeking of, and I am concerned that if they have understanding of how to activate such artifacts, that this they will be far more of a problem than you can comprehend.
Well,
For
Well,
Go ahead.
it's a huge. You know what? I'm gonna make a knowledge New York City roll.
Oh, you've got knowledge in New York City. You're going to know about the Met. So
Yeah. So he'll say, well, it's huge. I mean, they've got, 1 million, 2 million items in there from every culture across the earth, every major culture across the earth, right? So old, new. I mean, it's huge. They could be looking for, if that's what they're after, they can be looking for anything.
then it is possible they are not seeking communication because they are in search of something, which puts us on a very tight timeline. We need to stop them before they find whatever it is.
Hmm.
My host seems to concur with me.
our thought is that they're trying to make their commentary with the mayor. She speaks up. That since they have the mayor in there, the commissioners there as well, that they might be more interested in who they can reach there and believe that they're going to be able to get their message to them. Aldo,
Yeah.
go ahead, and as you're in there and there's files and such open, and you're seeing some of the pictures either up on the computer screens or ones that they've gotten. Go ahead and make me, let's say, deduction. I'll
Okay.
give you a +1 onto your roll
Okay.
because it's in
I
your
rolled
wheelhouse.
pretty well. I rolled a 10, so I made it with a +1, I think I made it by 3.
Everybody, all the individuals that you're seeing, they seem to be very young members of the Bradley Falls militia, at least on the ones that they have pictures of or believe to be inside. You're not certain on the full thing, but the group is one that, like they said back in the the 60s, 70s, went off onto their a compound and such, and so there's going to be plenty of different ages. It's not like a new group that is.
Right. So this looks like a second generation, maybe,
Or probably
Or a
third
fake
generation.
copycat.
third generation,
Or
third
possibly
generation.
copycat under that title.
are they just being fodder?
Are they?
Well,
These
and
kids
at
still
this
about
point,
these ideas about
Aldo's the only
kid-
one that
kid-
knows anything else.
Yep.
Yeah. Is he? He's gonna reach for the files if they'll let him, just kind of casually.
I was just
Yeah.
about to ask, by the way, Ghostlight, have your scouting endeavors given any information?
My traveler will be back. I won't know until it comes back. And as he's talking, I made an 8 professional skill FBI agent, so he kind of answers offhandedly as he's focused on the files. He's
I figured it was a good, segue for you to just grab. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just kind of grab the file, and they don't really think about that. Unlike when Scarab asked about seeing the because theoretically nobody's supposed to be in the van that's not supposed to be interacting with this stuff.
Right. So he'll peruse them for any useful information, or even for information that will be useful in the future, right? So, even if it's not immediately, but.
So, Brandon, I did ask them earlier if there were any wounded among them yet.
There are wounded individuals. They got a few people got hit by things. There are paramedics on the scene, and most of those have been rushed away to the hospital. But there are some officers that are wounded with minor injuries, and so are staying on. Since
I would like to be taken to them.
On deck.
I would like to be.
Ghostlight, you figured that if you weren't currently suspended, if you were off duty, they would have probably been calling you to get people down. And you have seen the local enforcement, since it is a local issue, is the one that's taking point. But you are seeing some, more federal resources that are being diverted into, since it is a big, situation.
I would like to be directed to the wounded.
Sure.
Or have the wounded brought to me.
Well, you are, and I want you to describe the scene. But yeah, they can send you out to go and help some of the officers that did take shots. They'll send Officer Moretti with you to basically be your little watcher there. But why don't you play that scene for me?
Okay, so I'm taken out to one of the barricades where the officers are, lined up and ready for danger and trouble coming out. And I see one of them has a wound on his shoulder. It's, kind of scratched up. It's nothing too bad, and I see that they've tried to basically patch it up, and he'll get medical attention later. So I approach, and I ask Officer Moretti to introduce me so they're not all freaked out. And I tell them, I'd like.
Sure, I'll with her introducing you, I'll handle that part. So she's seems a little uncertain, walking with this individual. How tall are you, by the way?
I'm 5'10".
I don't know if your height changes or not.
No, my height doesn't change. I'm a full host, so I'm 5'10", 148 pounds.
Right. And she's like,
do look like a supermodel. I've got the presence for it.
All right. So as you're walking up, one of the officers looks at her and is like, who's this with you, Rook? We've been hearing stories. And Moretti speaks up and she's like, gentlemen, this is the Scarab. She's interesting. She says that she can help because I know a few of you guys got hurt when they were shooting earlier. And if anybody's willing, she was offering to give some sort of assistance. They look a little sheepish at this, and why don't you go ahead and take back over control?
Sure. Look, I just heard some neighbors are hurt, so if you're going to be out here protecting our lives, I just want to give a hand to you the best way I can. Luckily, I happen to have an army at my back and got a little bit of ability to help you with that, especially that cut on your shoulder there.
Go ahead and make your persuasion.
Make it by 3.
All right. The officer, looks a little sheepish, and then his more stereotypical 1970s donut eating officer, right next to him. He's like, "Oh, what? Are you scared? You scared of the girl? I mean, what is she gonna do? Put a bug on you?" And a couple of the guys laugh at that, and so he's like, "Fine, and is willing to let you do something.
Okay. So at that point, I step forward to him, and I open my palm, and on my palm, you see the developing force energy of a golden scarab, and it looks like something you'd have as a pendant or something, and it's just this translucent force energy gold. And then I ease it onto his shoulder and let it crawl onto the wound. And I take the bandage off as it's crawling to the wound, and I take the bandage off, and people who are nearby can see the wound literally stitching itself up with little golden threads as the body knits itself back together.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
The people the officers kind of give you a wide berth, except for the one. So while they might have been just giving the guy a hard time, they are still more than a little nervous about you, and you know
And
heal up. The uniform is still ripped where the damage was, but the wound. Go ahead and roll your effect on that.
sure, and he's going to feel better than new. I just like to
Yep.
point that out because he is going to get a 3d6 aid on top of this. So the d6 body that he regains is 6. I rolled 6 on that. And here's 3d6 on the aid. That is 8. 8 on my 3d6.
Okay. And all of a sudden the gold glow of the scarab fades away, and there's no longer the blood that was on top, and the obvious laceration from taking an injury. Instead, it's just the guy's skin and all, and he's moving his shoulder, and he looks at the more heavy set officer, and he's like, "You were right, Sarge. I haven't felt this good since my baseball days."
Anyone else?
Aye.
And
So,
I'll go through
and-
and heal anyone else that needs healing.
Sure. Some of them, by all means, seem a little hesitant, a little nervous, but Moretti takes you around and makes the offer, and you're able to get a few of them. You do see some individuals who are injured that don't take it. So not everybody is lining up for the Supers Medical Clinic.
That's fine. I'm just trying to build goodwill here, and plus help. Like I said, neighbors are hurt, so I'm helping my neighbors.
And you coming out, the car that some of the cars that had gotten beaten up. Jim apparently earlier he came out and turned them on the sides and such like that to give a better wall and such.
What kind of history do these folks have? What kind of have they been involved? Have they been involved in any crimes before, or picked up by the police even on suspicion of crime, or anything like that?
Sure. Looking through the jackets that you've got there, a couple of names do come up. They've got, some of them are still unknown. Like they said, they think there's about 20 of them. So some of them are unknown. Others are identified. There's one of the younger ones. He's probably 21 years old. Goes by the name of Tim Connors. And he is, pardon me, he is regularly in trouble. And generally, whenever one of this younger group, and you're looking at, the youngest of the ones that they believe are inside or know are inside is a 15-year-old. And then probably about 23 is the oldest out of the ones there, with a lot of them being teenagers. And but he seems to pop up a lot when any of the people from the Bradley Falls younger crowd is getting into trouble with townies and all. There's a couple other names that pop up. Karen Tellerman, and they can tell you that she was the one with the rifle. 19-year-old female. She is often seen, with Tim Connors.
And Tim is how old?
Tim's 21.
21. Okay.
Her younger brother is the 15-year-old that they believe is in there as well. Goes by the name of Phil. He's they haven't gotten him really causing trouble, but they think that in the past But he has been with some of the groups that come out and deal with townies, and a lot of this information you're looking at it, and it's not the New York City police files. These are federal files that have been provided to them.
Okay.
Because they're not specifically in New York City. They're out of town by a little bit, like the Xavier Mansion, and how they had the townies that they dealt with and such like that.
Right. Okay.
And you pick up a couple other names and such, and when people get into way too much trouble and others say that's just teenage hijinks, but you're like, no, that's more than teenage hijinks. This is the kind of stuff that they have gotten into.
Okay.
You see a couple other names, but those are the ones that just jump out at you as you're flipping through. But Tim Connor seems to be more the one that's always kind of involved in the bad stuff, and so just on coming in cold, you would identify him as kind of a ringleader figure.
Is there anything particularly with him? Any personal information there, like psychological profile, nicknames, anything in particular that could be exploitable?
He is a hothead.
Mm-hmm.
He will. A lot of times, some of his stuff is just stupid teenage stunts that go too far, but a lot of the time, he goes and gets into fights. He used to get picked up at bars before he was too young, if they would card him, but he would get into fights there, and since he has become 21 years old, there are definitely more drunk and disorderlies that have gone on. Nothing too serious that would get him locked up, really, for one reason or another.
What was his home life like?
Yeah, I was about to ask about family life.
The home life, they don't know a whole lot because going out onto the militia property, they are generally very much what's theirs is theirs, and you keep off because you don't have a reason to be here. But from the profiles that they have been able to gather, they assume that he's either a broken home or an abuse home or something like that.
Okay.
And that's just flipping through the files and trying to give them a quick read as you're going.
Anything about because he doesn't like that abnormal they don't like that abnormals are gaining power or whatever. Is there anything in the profiles that would speak to that? Like, are there when he talks about abnormals? Is he talking about homosexuals? Is he talking about racial or ethnic groups that he doesn't like? Is there any sense, or is there something else?
You are dealing with a semi-ethnically diverse population. This is not just from one genetic stock. That Tim is a black young man. You have some Hispanic individuals and such. A larger portion of white people than the rest, but that there are multiple ethnicities in this cloistered off group. And so you don't think that they're probably targeting on ethnic lines, that you haven't seen an Asian picture among them. And then reading about them, you see that back when they went off their own way, back in the 60s, 70s, there was an individual, Frederick Sumner. Sorry, Alice, I totally said Sumner because of a previous character of yours, so I was saying that. He was an educated individual and, had theories about all these events that are reported in the world, and how basically there was a global Illuminati run by these meta-powerful individuals that were seeking to put down, the common American man, and and Cola got all of these different sightings and such like that had occurred, and was using these as example as bait, and apparently got a group of people to follow him into self-imposed exile, where they could ensure the purity of their own commune, and warn the nation, warn the world of this oncoming tragedy.
Hmm. Okay.
I didn't activate. And over the years, the Bradley Falls militia became, more and more militant, more and more removed, and that's been something that's been going on, now for 40 years. As they become more and more activated, more and more polarized from the rest of the world.
But totally insular, right? I mean, they're
Yeah, they, come to town for supplies or go out, drinking, and a lot of times it is the younger groups, and you can see this through, you flip through a quick thing on just history of encounters with the Bradley Falls militia, and it's generally the ones that are causing trouble are generally in the younger, but you see that's there's a larger increase on the past 10 years, let's say, as these individuals have gotten to the age of majority.
Okay.
The energy starts coming back to Aldo, and Aldo, it recombines with you, and then as you're kind of recovering, you're taking the information from it and from that, all of a sudden you hear on the front steps is somebody scream out, "You keep those super freaks out of here! We don't want any of them! We saw whatever the heck that was!" And you get a view of your thing, like you were saying low to the ground and trying to move, moving through the museum. The individuals that are being held hostage. There are a couple different rooms with a large amount of them. The wait staff and such like that is all bound up together in one area. A lot of the different guests are bound up together, and they have these young individuals with guns and knives and such watching over them, and you don't notice anything about most of the guards that really strikes you as unusual. As you're floating through, and you see the individuals that you have been identifying as more the important ones out of these files, you do start to see differences from what they looked like before, and all right. When you come across Phil Tellerman in there, he has these strange gauntlet-like things on his arms that are glowing with a blue energy, and they definitely look pretty abnormal. When you come across Tim Connors, he's got these gauntlets that are literally crackling with electricity on his hands. Karen has a strange-looking rifle that is similarly glowing with that blue energy. There's another individual that is Tim's older brother, and he has these technological, and all this is got a higher tech vibe, along with that kind of general blue energy that glows around it. But Jacob has got these boots that are kind of pulsing with energy, and then the last one, you don't have a specific name on him, but the last of these individuals that really jumps out at you, he has a harness around him that the centerpiece is, glowing with this blue energy, and all along the harness are those small bug-like creatures that they had in the beaker. The most of them are spread throughout the complex, and those 5 individuals that seem strange, that each of the pieces that is with them, you go ahead and give me a perception check.
Okay. Rolled an 8.
Okay. It definitely the whatever those things are kind of interacting with them, is that you notice different parts where some of the tech is kind of going into their skin where it's nearby them, things like that they look fused.
Okay.
Not on all 5 of those, yeah.
On all 5
not
of them.
on a it is completely one, but that they are more than just I'm wearing shoes.
Yeah.
And as for when you were going through, as for Tim and Karen, they were off in rooms. Karen was talking with the police commissioner, let's say, and Tim was talking with the mayor, and they were basically trying to convince, threaten, cajole these individuals into listening, becoming aware of this oncoming threat, and that they needed to, guard the city against it, or else all of America would fall to the oncoming wave of these, genetic freaks that would rise up, and take the Illuminati would rise and take control.
How were the various individuals reacting to these attempts to coerce, cajole, etc.?
The mayor and the mayor and the police commissioner, neither one of them seemed to be, really willing to listen to it. That they were more, trying to, say, well, I mean, if you let everybody go, that we'll get some sort of lenience for you guys. They, at one point, the commissioner who was talking with Karen, is like, I don't know what's going on. And for her, everybody else is wearing something. For her, the gun, that she's got this rifle, you don't see it leave her hands really. She still has it, and it is similarly, binding into her hand. And so, she kind of, gets angry and, gives him the butt of the rifle during the conversation. The general hostages, they, you see some of them who have obviously been injured, a little punch here or a little pistol whip there or something like that. Most of them seem like they are, very scared about what's going on. And you, out of the people that are there, and you rolled pretty well, you do count a total of 20 of these Bradley Falls militia people inside.
Plus the 5?
No, counting those 5.
Okay.
And the guards on them, they will taunt them and talk about how they're better than them and stuff like that. Basically, think about anybody who would be empowered suddenly. And among this group, you do similarly see a slight racial diversity. By all means, primarily a white individual, but there's Hispanics. There are, like I said, that Tim, I think is his name, is black, and so is his brother.
Right.
And so it's not just, that we have a section of that group that for some reason took a racial divide.
Right. Okay. Well, he'll report all that to everybody. I mean, listen, before I tell you anything else, these people are here, well, because of people like us. I mean, the abnormals they're talking about. Well, I don't know about people like us, but the abnormals are talking about people like Ballistic, like Resolute, like those figures of old, right? They broke away from everybody because of them. So they're in there right now trying to convince the city leaders that they need to respond when the next wave comes. So if that helps us to figure out how we're going to interact with, I think we should definitely keep this in mind.
Well,
Primarily because
I
of the
don't
human
think they're
race.
going to be. I don't sure. I'm pretty soon they're going to do their gizmos or their equipment, and they'll do the talking. I don't really see them trying to, we negotiating with them once we show up.
Welcome back, Brandon.
I'm not saying we negotiate, but I'm saying that it's important to understand the context, and it's important to understand how they might respond based on that context, and it's important to understand how this will look to everybody else as well.
Let me ask some questions first, because I just met y'all. Miss Scarab, I seen kind of what exactly can you do?
So my eyes flicker black and then blue again. It is just Scarab. Before I answer that question, I would simply like to point out that I would not be here if there was not a need to have called me here. So if people like them, pointing, and she points inside the Met, did not exist, then I would not exist either. As for my abilities, I am the Scarab Queen. I can call upon the power of an army to lift, to move, to imprison if needed, and if necessary, to wound. And as the Queen of the Scarabs, I control life and death itself. I can drain the life force from someone if necessary, but at the same time, I can gift that life force to someone if it is not their time. My host has harnessed some power through our connection that connects her with the land, my homelands. And her powers are a bit more erratic to both of us at the moment, but she is able to move unseen through the world of the sands. She is able to master the enemy's mind when necessary. Though that is still erratic, she seems to think she is in waking dreams when she attempts to. And I believe she inaccurately said that I could take all of us inside. Unfortunately, I cannot. The Met is currently too close. My gateways require at least a kilometer or more for me to have any ability to create a passway.
All right. And you can in you go slot, you can fly. And I can see what you can have part of you leave you and come back and around and be able to do that scout thing. So did you buy when your part of you went to the inside the building, did you where what floor they were on? Were you able to see any kind of like numbers on walls or something to give us an idea of where they actually are?
Yeah, of course. He'll basically sketch that out for them. Like he'll literally take, if there's a pad,
I mean, you guys have plenty of copies of, the layout of the
layout, right.
Where are the servants, the service? Where are the caterers?
He'll point it all out. He'll say, the service staff was here. This is where they're interrogating the mayor. And this is where he'll just lay it out. Minor wounds. I think we can deal with the wounds later. We just have to make sure that there are no serious wounds and that we incapacitate these people as effectively and as quickly as possible, right?
Let's. I guess we just gotta go inside. We know what. Were they able to remotely? Can they remotely shut off power to the building?
She will say, yes, we do have the ability to cut power and other supplies to the building.
How many separate rooms are Phil, Tim, Karen, Jacob, and Dude in? Like, are they in 5 separate rooms? Are 2 of them in one room and 3 in another? Are they? How far apart are they?
So let's say that you've got the hostages have been bound up,
Yeah.
tied to each other and such, and so they're basically going to have no ability to interact in a positive fashion.
Right.
And so for a group of tied up hostages, so and you didn't stand there and count. Your entity didn't stand there and count, but you've got 150 is the guesstimate, and you'd think that's reasonably correct. Mm-hmm. Those are broken up into groups of 30 people, and then you have 2 of the more regular, everyday kind of Bradley Falls militia that have the handguns and the knives and such, guarding each of those groups.
2 guarding each of those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you have the groups of, so that leaves you with 5. So let's say there is a group of 2 with each of the named ones that are outside, that aren't Karen and aren't Tim. And so that there's 2 with let's say with Jacob, who had the boots. That's the older brother. And then we'll put the other 3, the other 2 guys that you saw is with one of the right? No, 2. 3, 2. So yeah, 3 are with Jacob, who has the boots on. And 2 are with the guy with the harness and the guy with the gauntlets, I guess. Yeah.
Both the harness and gauntlets are together?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you've got another area where that Karen and Tim are in separate rooms each nearby, and so the ones that aren't specifically guarding, they are moving about in the museum.
Okay.
Go ahead and give me. Do you have tactics?
I don't have tactics, no.
Give me your FBI with a -2.
Okay. I did not make it with a -2. I made it normally, but not with.
They don't seem to be especially organized. Would be your take.
Did they have communicators?
I got tactics.
I'm asking Ghostlight because it's what he saw.
Oh, okay.
Did they have communicators? Like.
Yes.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, how do you... And the groups of 30, each one is in a different room?
Yeah.
And how...
Nearby, like basically 5 rooms, 5 of the exhibit rooms, or possibly at other ends of an exhibit hall type thing.
Okay.
But basically, so that they're close enough that they could, they might hear and respond to things, but that they aren't trying to just control 150 bound, but still 150.
I might be able to slip in and take them out surreptitiously.
You do the sapping, okay? Look at technical military terms. You're the sapper. You're the guy who takes out the advanced scouts. I'm the heavy infantry.
All right.
And Scarab there, she can be the Scarab girl that takes them out. I don't know what she would be in military terms.
So Brandon, what I would like to do actually, since he's looking at splitting off already, I would like to provide him backup, and I'd like to point out at this point I'm a lightning calculator, so I'd like to look at the floor plans that they can provide me, and I wish to try and basically teleport myself into one into an area where I can find a vent to crawl through, because I need to be on the first floor. I know that, because sand to sand, I need to be on the first floor. But I want to basically teleport myself near near an HVAC vent system, so that I can crawl in and I can basically start caging things up. And I'm going to try and basically time it so that I'm jumping in at approximately the same point, so we can time our attacks together. Like Ghostlight and I, and therefore he has backup, and then our Brit can come in storming in after that. But I'm going to do a lot better starting off, where he and I can be timed and strike together.
All right, so somebody run down what's going on then.
Is that okay with you, Ghostlight? That I'm going to be basically, you and I have a queue to work at the same time.
I think that's good. I think, for instance, if there's a big exhibit chamber and we have a group of 30 hostages on one side and a group of 30 on the other, for me to be taking out the 2 guards on one while you're taking out the 2 guards on the other, that'll be effective, I think. And I think the idea here is to get rid of. My idea is basically to get rid of as many of the isolated guards, so that we can secure those people from any repercussions once the fighting really starts. Right? So the more that we can, the more groups of 30 that we can make safe, the better.
Right.
Before things hit the fan.
And if it doesn't look like there's a vent that I can easily, basically peek through to do this, I will at that point seek out a window, because I can just might have a million legs and get myself to that window, because I want line of sight.
And Brandon, if it helps, like the way that he would approach this, since you're right, this is zero range. He'd basically come up from the ground, be solid in front of one and do that attack, hoping that the other one would be kind of like, wouldn't be able to act that round because he's surprised. And then while that one is paralyzed, then try to incapacitate the other one before he can react with his martial arts, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. And again, I know that we don't have a map out where we can precisely do this, so you let me know, whether it works or what rolls you want me to make, or what, Yep. I'm telling you my vision, but I don't, you let me know how that.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
And I'm translating my vision of, I'm going to line myself up so that he and I are attacking at the same time, using my lightning calculator perk to make sure that we're getting our timing down pretty well. I know I need to teleport in and do this, at this time.
Okay. One other thing I'm going to say about the way that I run Champions versus the strict reading of the book. I look more at your phase as the Marvel heroic. It's your comic panel. What are you doing with it? Rather than it's this many seconds long,
right.
And one turn is 12 seconds. Because
Right.
I sometimes at that point Reed Richards kludging together something super tech. You're like, well, it's going to at least take you this many,
right.
rather than your comic panels covering that. So
right.
All right. So yeah, Aldo, his plan is to desolid and come up and basically get the drop on one of them. You're planning on trying to get the drop on another one by getting a point of view. Alice and Jim, what's your plan on that?
While they're keeping busy taking out I think, I'll you know what? Screw it. I'll just go charging in there. I'll direct everyone. They don't expect. They focus their attention on me. then the other two can take him out from.
They'll
Can
never
basically
expect
flank
the
him.
Diamond Inquisition.
Yeah, I've been accused of hearsay. So hell with it. I'm not subtle.
Hey man, you
just-
got to play to your strengths.
And sometimes your strengths are strength.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm gonna go in there all big hero moment. I'm just gonna walk right in, stand my ground, and said, "All right, boys, the freaks are out here. Come and get me if you got the balls."
And that's it for this evening, everyone. So thank you for listening to our episode. We hope you tune in next time for the next installment. Bye.
Bye.
Say goodnight, Gracie.